Okay, I think we're gonna get started here because Mr. Healy told me I can't start till we hit 125 participants, and we hit 125, 126 right now, so we can start. So welcome everybody to the middle school transition conversation. The purpose for today's meeting is a couple of reasons. We want to introduce you to the panel here and their roles. We want to talk to you about the middle school experience in general. And while it differs a little bit school to schools, basically most of it's very much in common. Talk about the social emotional changes your child would go through. The counselors will speak to that. And then talk about the protocols for how we place your children into the most appropriate classes in the middle school level. And we're talking about ELA, math, science, and world languages. Those are the areas that there are placements for, but also we have world music and art and talk about that as well. So let the team introduce themselves at this point. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Oh.
Sorry.
I'll go first. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dr. Benjamin Marcus. I am the interim program coordinator for ELA and social studies K-8, and I really look forward to speaking with you tonight.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Reed, and I am the program coordinator for K-8 mathematics.
Hi there. I'm Tara Fogel, and I'm the program coordinator for K-8 science.
Hi, my name is Laura Newell. I am the program coordinator K-12 for art and music.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Klein. I'm the K-12 coordinator for ESOL and world language.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Moore. I am the one of the counselors at Eastern Middle School.
I am Carrie Borcherding. I am one of the special ed program coordinators for the district. I work with the 6 to 8 program and also with a few schools in the K to 5 program.
Oops, someone jumped ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karina Magana. I am one of the counselors at Western Middle School.
Hi, Gordon Beinstein. I'm the principal at the Western Middle School. I did not pick that picture out, just for the record.
Hi, Bonnie O'Regan. I'm the bad driver. I'm the out facilitator.
Good evening, everyone. Tom Healy, principal at Central Middle School.
And Jason Goldstein, principal over at Eastern Middle School. Welcome. Good evening.
Was that everybody? Okay.
Yes, Leslie couldn't be here tonight. Leslie is the 8th grade guidance counselor at Central, who will be the 6th grade counselor next year, but she couldn't join us this evening.
Okay. All right, so who hits this one, Karina or Megan?
I do it.
You got it.
I
Go
get
ahead.
to. Middle school is more than the link between elementary and high school. It is a time of intense growth for students, not only academically, but personally. Physically, they start showing uneven development in skills like agility, balance, strength, and flexibility, but also get better at fine motor and gross motor movements like those used in team sports. Middle school is a time of major social and emotional growth. Kids may struggle to fit in even while looking for ways to be an individual, and they may not ask for advice as often as before. Intellectually, problem-solving skills and thinking skills develop a lot at this age. Kids may also start to pay more attention to decision-making and to organizing ideas, time, and things.
I'll speak on this slide. So like Bonnie mentioned, middle school is a time of great change. Your children, our students come into us, as little 6th graders, and then we watch them grow tremendously to 8th graders. So it is a time of big development. And in our middle schools, we do offer a very supportive sense of community. We get to know your children way before they enter the building, not just through data points like test scores and things of that nature, but also speaking with their teachers. We also communicate with the parents as well before meeting your child. So we get to know them very well before they enter the building. We do have an encouraging climate, and we do have very rigorous academics, as you'll hear very shortly from our panelists with regards to academic placement. Us middle school counselors, we are part of the academic team to help support your child social, emotionally, and academically. Aside from just working on their schedules, we meet with teachers on a weekly basis to gather information that helps build up our week to know if we need to contact any parents and things of that nature. So we're in constant communication with our administrators, our teachers, and elementary teachers. So yes, we look forward to a new year. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. As I said before, I'm Megan Moore. I'm one of the counselors at Eastern Middle School, and I too am the 8th grade counselor now, and will be looping back down to 6th grade for next fall. And I just wanted to point out that middle school, the transition from elementary school to middle school is the biggest transition in your child's academic career, mainly because the elementary school has one classroom teacher and they're with the same kids all day. And the difference from middle school is to middle school is much more similar to a high school and college in terms of the way the classes and things like that are structured. So it's a big jump. And it takes a lot of getting used to, and that's our job. We meet the kids where they are and bring them along. And so I just wanted to point out to you some of these changes from elementary school to middle school. They navigate a new schedule and the hallways during passing time. They will learn to manage and they each have a locker, so they manage their materials, and they for each of their classes, and have a locker that they go to during passing time. They attend different classes for each subject area. They learn from different teachers with different teaching styles for each class. They learn how to take notes in class. They will study for tests weekly, manage their time, and increase workload outside of school. So currently they might have a little bit of homework in elementary school, but they learn to manage more nightly homework and more long-term projects. They take responsibility for making up work after an absence. They use an electronic grade book called Aspen and have number and letter grades. They will also begin to advocate for themselves and seek extra help out when necessary. And they learn to use, they each get their own digital Chromebook, and they learn how to use and navigate all of that, and learning to use that responsibly. In addition to all of these academic demands that are different than elementary school, the social transitions are very, very big and important to middle school students. And that includes making new friends, where to sit in the cafeteria, who they're going to walk with in the hallway. And although all of this may seem very daunting, as I said in the beginning, we as middle school teachers and counselors and staff work with the elementary school teachers to try to make that transition as smooth as possible. And once we get them, we meet them where they are and help them along to develop all of these skills.
So I'm just addressing the special education at the middle school level. So each middle school has a continuum of services at each school. Programs are individualized through the IEP, and students may have push-in or pull-out services. We have co-taught classrooms. We have small group instruction. It's really based on what a student needs. So the one piece that is a big change often from 5th to 6th is the change in the services. And often parents feel like changes are very different. It's usually around a schedule change. So you have a student who in 5th grade who is with the same teacher during the day. They might have a pull-out, they might have a push-in, and then they go to middle school and they may have a whole block that is related to their special education programming with that monitor. that's what will come up in your PPT in the spring. We're right now in the process of setting up all those dates of when we share from 5th to 6th about students that are coming, when we have a meeting with you and your whole family and the PPT team about what services, what classes are recommended. That will be between about April to June, depending on which school, because every school shares at a different time. And it'll be built around the schedule that your student needs. So it will be based on the classes, their needs, their IEP goals and objectives, and each student is different. So we can't say like one student will have this pathway, one will have another. We have students who are in advanced classes who also receive an academic block, and we have students who may receive an alternative curriculum who also access their gen ed peers throughout the day. So everything is a little bit different for each student. And if you have any questions individually, feel free to reach out to me. At the end of this presentation, my email and everything will be attached. Again, Carrie Borcherding. I am working with all the middle schools, and I'm happy to speak with anyone who needs to about this.
We'll be talking about the procedures that Greenwich uses for ensuring the students' success are successfully placed with a schedule that meets their social, emotional, and academic needs. But I wanted to share with you just some dates just to preempt, and I'll remind you again at the end of the session of these dates again. The first one is the parent input window. Parent input is one of the many pieces of information used in placing students into classes for 6th grade. This form will be available via the website on January 20th. Please complete this form by February 4th so that we can use this information as we're gathering additional input. This is a range of dates, February 22nd to March 24th, when teachers are gathering that additional information used as part of the body of academic evidence. The last date is when you'll be informed of these placement recommendations. Emails will be sent on March 31st and April 1st.
All right, good evening, everybody. Reminder, my name is Mike Reed, and I'm the K-8 math coordinator. Thanks for joining us to learn more about the 5th to 6th grade transition. And please know that if you have any questions that aren't answered by the end of this presentation, you can email me directly. And again, that email will be attached at the end of the presentation. Okay, so many of you have seen this before because I've gone through these pathways in other board presentations, but this is our typical pathway for a student that falls naturally into Math 6, so 6th grade math. And as you can see on the left side, this would be the natural progression, Math 6 to Math 7 to pre-algebra in 8th grade. But as you notice in the middle and in the far right column, there are opportunities, which I'll talk about later on in the presentation, for advancement. But we do a very good job in the Greenwich Public Schools of monitoring our students and making sure they're in the right place, whether or not they need to move up or down. This is our second pathway. This is an advanced pathway. The A in 6A stands for advanced. And this is for our students that are able to access a more rigorous, fast-paced curriculum. We no longer skip content like we used to with previous programs. So Big Ideas has created these advanced pathways for us so that we compact 3 years of math instruction into 2 years. So if your student falls into the Math 6A pathway, they will be in algebra by grade 8. As noted before, you can advance to the middle column or the far right column, and these are opportunities that the students have depending on what you decide as a family, and we'll be in communication with you to help you support your decision. And then our final pathway, our third pathway, is sort of our double jump, like we say internally. These are students that will fall right into pre-algebra 6 to start their middle school career. And our grade 5 ALP students, our math ALP students, fall naturally into this pathway. But again, there is also opportunities for advancement, as you can see on the right there. So We use we use multiple classroom measures of both ability and work habits to determine if a general education student will make a single or double jump. And we will engage in our building advisory committee procedure so that all stakeholders have a voice: students, parents, teachers, administrators, into the math placement. It's important to note that middle school administrators do a wonderful job in conjunction with the guidance counselors and the teachers of monitoring, what levels students should be in. So whatever level you end up starting in may not be the track you stay in once you're in middle school. And as stated earlier, there are opportunities for acceleration over the summer. So this last slide gives you information about summer math opportunities. Each of these options is 5 weeks in length. We offer 3 courses to bridge into our 6A, our pre-algebra, and our algebra courses. These are truncated courses, and they focus on the essential skills for each of these content areas. And students are assessed on these skills. And at the end of summer school, they will take a summer school final, which they would need to get an 85% or higher to move on to the next level. We also offer an Algebra 1 course and a geometry course. And these courses are actually, the final is the actual full final that a student would normally get. So it's not truncated. Again, they would need an 85% or higher to move on to the next level. And I also need to add that if these summer school opportunities do not meet your family's scheduling needs, you have the opportunity to sit for any final in each course, regardless of attending summer school. We won't force you to have a prerequisite, but again, you would need to attain an 85% or higher to accelerate into the next course. And we offer 3 opportunities for that. In July, at the end of summer school, which is typically the first week in August, and then a date later in August. All these dates will be announced, and the procedures for this in April, when we sort of finalize our summer school schedule and things of that nature. So again, please reach out to me with any concerns or questions whatsoever. And next up is Mrs. Fogel with information about science.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Again, I'm Tara Fogel, the K Science Coordinator, and I'm going to start this evening by telling you a bit about the science curriculum at the middle school in general. So science in the middle school is a drastic change from how students have learned science in their elementary school classroom. Middle school science is project-based. It spirals through the disciplines of science in 4 units of instruction each grade level. All middle classes are based in the next generation science standards. This covers 3 facets of learning. These include science and engineering practices, disciplinary core ideas, and our cross-cutting concept. Science in grades 6 through 8 is taught by certified science staff with backgrounds in biology, physics, chemistry, earth and space science, and the engineering design process. Our middle school science teachers pride themselves on their ability to meet the needs of learners through the use of student voice, student choice, and multiple opportunities for extension and remediation whenever necessary. Now, there are 2 options for science placement in grade 6. Science 6 is an excellent starting place for most of our students. Since middle school is the first time your child will experience 45 minutes at minimum of science instruction daily, it is a large transition from 5th grade to begin with. The curriculum for on-level students is rigorous. It is appropriately paced and allows for extension and enrichment based on students' needs and their interests. When we look at 6th grade science for advanced students beginning in 22-23, one major change is that students in 6A will be separate from students in 6 on level. Additionally, one change is a greater pace at which the content is covered. Teachers utilize above grade resources and optional enrichment embedded in advanced units of instruction. Students in advanced classes master all of the same 6th grade performance expectations as their on-level counterparts, with the addition of more rigorous texts in readability, length, and content. They also engage in larger and more complex data analysis using our Tuva platform. Along with these content advancements comes the use of assessment criteria on rubrics that assess students' abilities above the grade level 6-8 band. In addition to this advanced curriculum, advanced students will engage in one intensive unit of instruction, which we refer to as a seminar. This also will be project-based and involved opportunities for student exploration and choice. As stated earlier, parent input is an important facet as we schedule students for courses in grade 6. To help you consider the parent input portion for science placement, I want to provide you some soft guidelines for consideration. On-level students may not be showing specific interest or motivation in science at this stage, nor do they engage in the science and engineering practices on their own. On-level students may have age and developmentally appropriate reflection practices, work completion, and independence. Advanced students differ in that they may show a curiosity about the natural world. They may be STEM-minded or enjoy engineering and design projects, tools, and toys. Students who meet success in advanced science in grade 6 are often intrinsically motivated without much adult prompting. They're able to complete class and homework with a strong level of independence. When students are placed in advanced science for grade 6, we utilize a multitude of information in addition to the parent input. This body of evidence includes historical performance on district and state assessments and current performance within science lessons in grade 5. Students are initially recommended for advanced science if they meet at least 2 of the following 3 criteria. Performance of level 3 or above on SBA ELA in grade 4, performance of level 3 or above on SBA math in grade 4, and grade 5 performance in their current science classroom. These pieces of information are also considered in conversations during building advisory committee meetings in the spring. It is important to know that if your student is not recommended into advanced science at the beginning or throughout their 6th grade year, there are multiple and continuous on-ramps or opportunities for advancement should your student show a strengthening aptitude towards the sciences. All 3 middle schools provide on-ramps for moving into advanced science. This is done using a team approach, which includes input from all stakeholders, including you as the parent, teacher recommendations, a review of student work, and consultation with building administrations and grade level school counselors. Again, I reiterate what Mr. Reed said. Please reach out to me should you have questions that bubble up after this presentation. Our emails will be linked. Next, I turn it over to Dr. Marcus, who will discuss ELA and social studies.
Thank you, Mrs. Fogel. Again, my name is Dr. Marcus. I am the interim ELA and social studies coordinator K-8. Again, like my counterparts, if you have any questions at the end of this presentation, please feel free to reach out anytime. At the middle level, we offer 4 courses. In grades 6 through 8, we offer on-grade level English language arts and social studies that follow the Common Core learning standards and the Connecticut framework for social studies, including the inquiry work. The units of study in ALP English consist of a parallel course of study to the general education classes. Furthermore, a deeper investigation of the content combined with inquiry allows for a higher level of critical thinking and discourse. With increased complexity, students are expected to engage deeply in both reading and the writing that students produce. Entrance into ALP English is by examination, building recommendation, and parent consent with multiple avenues for on-ramps to the courses. ALP Seminar is a 1-semester elective course open to all students, regardless of ALP status, with building administration approval. The overarching theme for all 3 grades is, what does it mean to be human? With a different emphasis for each grade level. Entry into ALP Seminar is by building recommendation and parent consent. I will now turn it over to Ms. Bonnie O'Regan to discuss the ALP English placement process.
In addition to the classroom, district, and state assessments, students who are being considered for ALP English take 3 additional assessments, which are added to the body of academic evidence. There is a COGAT, which is age normed. This assessment evaluates relationships, systems thinking, and cognitive ability. Students then take an NWEA reading assessment. This is a grade level normed assessment and assesses both content and concepts. The assessment is adaptive, giving students questions at and above grade level. The final assessment is a performance task. These are district level normed, open-ended responses that dig into application and reasoning. The analysis of these assessments are discussed with teachers and at the building advisory committee meeting, and students who meet the requirements will be offered a placement into the middle school ALP English classes. Adrian Hirsch-Klein will now talk about middle school world language.
Good evening, everyone. Adrian Hirsch-Klein, K-12 World Language ESOL Coordinator. Again, like my colleagues have said, if you have any questions about our process for placing students into world language, feel free to email me at the end. And I'm sure there'll probably be time for questions as well. So we look at world language a little bit differently at the middle school level. Currently, your 5th grade student receives Spanish or French instruction 3 to 4 times per week in their general ed classroom by the world language teacher who visits that classroom. At the middle school level, Spanish or French is an academic block. So it is that 47 to 50-minute block, just like their other academic courses in their schedules. At the middle school level, we offer 3 tracks of Spanish. We have on-level, accelerated, and a native track. The on-level and accelerated track follow a similar curriculum focused on thematic units like food, family, school life, and other topics that other everyday topics that students learn to communicate about. What's different between the on-level and accelerated track is just that the accelerated track moves a little bit faster. We also offer a native Spanish track to Spanish-speaking native students who have the opportunity to continue refining their oral skills as well as their reading and writing skills. 6th grade is also an opportunity for students who'd like to switch from Spanish and move on to French. We offer beginning French at Western, Eastern, and Central. We also offer accelerated French only at Central Middle School because students who start studying French at Julian Curtis feed into Central Middle School. So that's why there's the accelerated track at Central. There is no accelerated French track at Western and Eastern, but obviously our teachers know how to differentiate very well within the classroom. The overarching goals of our 6th grade Spanish and French courses is to help students develop competence in interpreting, speaking, and presenting information in the target language. 6th grade Spanish and French meets 2 to 3 times per week, and 7th and 8th grade Spanish and French meet every day, which is going to be different from what your elementary school students are used to. Here is a traditional continuum of our middle school French course, Spanish and French courses. If a student begins in on-level Spanish, for example, which in this chart is Spanish 1C, they typically graduate to Spanish 2 in 7th grade and Spanish 3 in 8th. If a student begins in accelerated Spanish in 6th grade, which we know as Spanish 1A, they generally speaking continue along the accelerated track as long as they can maintain a certain grade point average on unit tests and project-based assessments. With that in mind, though, a placement in 6th grade doesn't necessarily predetermine a child's placement in world language for their entirety of their middle school life. We look at students' progress in world language as they move through their middle school years. So, for example, if a student who completes on-level 6th grade Spanish 1C is showing aptitude to be considered for 7th grade advanced Spanish, which we know as Spanish 2A, there is a list of criteria that our world language teachers consider that inform placement to a different track, including performance in class, on their assessments, as well as the completion of some bridge work over the summer and a placement test that we can administer in late August before the school year begins. Next slide, please. So the overview of the world language placement process, there are a few factors that we consider as we determine placement for your child moving into 6th grade. These factors include performance on an interpersonal speaking and listening assessment known as the APPLE. That is something that will be given to your 5th grader in mid-March by their world language teacher. A 1-page reading comprehension and writing assessment that will also be given in March, and we'll use Linkit to administer that assessment. The average of their 5th grade unit assessments, which they take every couple of months in 5th grade, as well as the teacher recommendation. And just please bear in mind that our world language teachers have known your children typically since 3rd grade, if not since kindergarten, if they're enrolled in one of our 4 magnet schools. A language choice Google form will be emailed to families, to you, to complete in March. And your responses are then submitted to our world language teachers. So students will have an opportunity to choose to continue in Spanish or switch to French. And you will let us know that in a Google form that we will send you in March. And then in early June, the world language teachers will email you your child's world language placement. We work with all new students to our district to determine an appropriate placement in math and science. If your child was placed in a gifted program in his or her prior district, please submit the relevant documentation to the district's ALP office. Participation, though, in another school district's gifted program does not automatically qualify a student for outplacement in our district. We would still have them move through our process. Thank you. Oh, I will turn it over now to Laura Newell, who will talk to you about our exciting middle school art and music program.
Good evening, everyone. I do have the pleasure of talking to you tonight about art and music choices in our middle schools. And, I'm just going to start off by talking to you a little bit about the why should we continue our arts instruction in middle school. While creating a positive learning environment and keeping students in school are both extremely important, the arts are essential because they teach us the value of where we were, as well as where we're going to move as human beings. As Leslie mentioned in the opening slides, there's a large emphasis in our district on supporting students socially and emotionally. The arts do this and more in helping your child frame their identity. Young children are naturally inquisitive and imaginative, and we embrace those skills through a creative construction and focusing on learning and innovation that'll help ensure that our students are prepared for increasingly complex life and our ever-growing work environments. Next slide, please. One major change in the visual art and music programming in the middle schools is that they're now elective. Students have a choice in which elective they will take each year. The schools do everything they can to provide students with their first choice. Art and music instruction continue to focus on the 4 artistic processes. Visual art specifically focus on 3D and 2D experiences. One exciting experience is that students can now enter their artwork to be judged in state and national competitions, such as the Scholastic Arts Awards and the National Educators Association competitions. Another potentially exciting experiences that we're looking to use are virtual reality experience to expand some of the experiences that students have for observation. For example, going to the Sistine Chapel and painting their ceilings right from their classrooms. Very excited. Another focus of our visual arts curriculum is how it could be applied to various skills in the career force. So we like to highlight for students that visual arts definitely plays a role into some unique and varied roles, such as being an architect, being a model engineer. One of the bigger ones right now is a medical illustrator, as well as an art therapist. All the career applications go on, and as they get into middle school, we start to highlight those special career paths. Next slide, please. For music, a major change in the music program from elementary to middle school is that there are no more small pull-out lessons for instrumental music. Instruction is provided to students in small classes with differing instruments, so a heterogeneous environment. We highly encourage private lessons, both instrumental and vocally, and we've been generously part of the Tuning Into Music program from the Greenwich Alliance that offer free private lessons to families who may not be in a financial situation to provide private instruction. So there are always ways to take advantage of these special opportunities for our students. There are also opportunities to audition in the Western Regional Festival. This is an audition process where students prepare a solo instrumentally or vocally. They prepare scales and complete something called sight reading, which is looking at music and actually hearing it before actually being played. The top scores get moved into an ensemble with students in the Fairfield County to participate in a large ensemble. Again, another outstanding opportunity for our students to perform. In addition to those slight changes that I've mentioned, opportunities extend outside of the school day as well. Before and after school, we have smaller ensembles that might be instrument focused or pop focused. In the general music classes are still focused on musical application on a variety of instruments. Right now, the instruments that we're focusing and offering in these classes include piano, guitar, and just recently, ukulele. I am now going to hand it over to Bonnie, who's going to remind us of some important timeline dates.
This is our reminder. There is a number of dates. First of all, is the parent input. Parent input, as you've heard all of us say, is a very important component of all of the placement processes. The academic parent input form will be opened on January 20th. And please just complete this by February 4th for us. The second is the range of dates when teachers are gathering additional information to be used as part of that body of academic evidence. You will be informed of the placement recommendations starting on March 31st, and I will be continuing to send those emails out on April 1st. And that middle school principals and counselors will be receiving the final placement recommendations prior to April break, so they can start working on a schedule that meets each student's social, emotional, and academic needs in grade 6.
I think it's my turn. Hi, guys. I think a message I just want to send here after hearing all this excellent information is your child is in good hands as they come to middle school, and we're looking at the whole child, not just necessarily what classes they're placed in. That is an important piece of how we schedule. But as we said numerous times, there are 6th grade placement in September. It's not often a 6th grade placement in June or a 7th grade placement as we look at next year. We don't have any ALP teachers. So every teacher teaches every level. So if they're in 6 math and 6A math, and the teacher also teaches 6A math and sees something that says, hey, let's give this kid a shot, we'll give that kid a shot. It is our goal to get the kids placed appropriately, and also that they're all well-rounded. It's not just about how many advanced classes you can be in, but also how well you do in other areas of your life as well. Tom or Jason, you guys want to chime in?
I'd just like to add on to what Gordon was mentioning regarding placement. I think all too often there's a concern with 6th grade students, what that's going to mean for them in high school. And very little, if any, of the placement of classes or levels of the classes they're in have a significant bearing on what classes they will be in when they get into high school. And there's a tremendous amount of growth, both academically, social, emotionally, maturity-wise, study habits in that 6 to 8, change of age for students. And so there's plenty of opportunity to make adjustments along the way. So, I think too often too much concern is put on what the placement is made in 6th grade and what that's going to mean for 9th and 10th and 11th grade. And there's plenty of time for the teams to wrap their supports around students, get the fit and the challenge right, and make adjustments along the way.
Yeah, and finally, just to emphasize that one more time, that's why we have a team model in middle school. We are constantly speaking about kids, how they're doing, their strengths, their areas for growth. And as Gordon pointed out, it's critical that our teachers aren't separate advanced class teachers. They're teaching both on grade level and advanced. So we don't have a magic number of students we're looking for to fill a certain class. We are really adapting to the students every year, every semester, every quarter, to ensure they are constantly being challenged appropriately. So we have a lot of flexibility in that area, and philosophically, we all support that. So we are always looking to make sure that our students are challenged, but supported and feeling successful.
As we stated earlier, I think we all stated that at any point in time, feel free to email any of us with any questions that you have about advanced studies, about middle school. Each one of these are hyperlinked and will be available on the academic websites. Now we're open for questions.
So use the Q&A box and jot your questions in. We'll answer them as they come in. We have about 15 minutes left. I'll hit this one. The first question is, how large is our class sizes? They generally are about 20 for all 3 schools. We get the number of sections we need to average about between 18 and 22, but it depends on it handles around 20 most of the time. One of the councilors want to hit the counselor question here? Karina or Megan?
So yeah, I'll be happy to speak on that. Can you please describe how the sixth grade counselor interacts with students, objectives, number of meetings over the course of the academic year, or is interaction more? So what we do is we have presentations that we give initially at the beginning of the year. We have assemblies. Of course, they've been virtual these past couple of years, but we give virtual assemblies where we introduce ourselves, outline what our role is as a middle school counselor, how they can contact us to make an appointment. We also make ourselves very widely available. We meet weekly with teachers to get their input also. They always point out if we need to touch base with a student, whether it be an academic issue, they notice something different in their demeanor. And of course, we, the counselors, communicate that out to the parents. But it is our objective to meet with all of our students face-to-face by, at least the first quarter, the first semester of the school year, a face-to-face individual meeting. But we, of course, have those students that we work a lot more closely with.
I am happy to answer the 504. I know I'm special ed, but we will have meetings for all students who are in a special ed process or who are already eligible. But if you have a student who has a 504 plan, typically the 504 will just transfer to the next school. If there needs to be any changes, you would have that. There are annual 504 meetings, but we don't typically have a bridging meeting for 504 plans. If you have any sort of request around that, for sure, you should contact the school where your student currently attends, and then also they can help you facilitate that process. There are some students where we do have those meetings for sure, but it's not typically how it's done. But if it's something you would like, absolutely, you should go ahead and reach out to your elementary school so they can facilitate that process.
And just quickly to follow up on that, the middle schools all undergo a sharing process for all students in the spring, where the counselors who are here, the sixth grade counselors, and the fifth grade team of teachers from each feeder school and each school of students are going to a middle school that they don't traditionally feed into in the district, but are attending there. We get that information, and the building administration sit down and discuss each of the students and their strengths and areas for growth. So anyone with a 504, that is highlighted in those meetings as well. The plan is previewed there. And as Ms. Borcherding said, it can always be followed up on a specific meeting later.
The next question asks about differences in sports or extracurriculars. The competitive sports are identical because we play each other. It'd be kind of weird if it wasn't. So we offer the same sports by season. Extracurriculars may differ a little bit by school as far as clubs offered, intramurals, but we all offer things 3 days a week after school. And there are late buses that go home at 4 o'clock every day. Our message to parents is we don't want kids going home to an empty house. So whether it's
I'm sorry, the fire alarm is going off here at the building, and so I need to leave. Okay.
Bonnie, you set off the fire alarm?
Just to add on to Gordon's point about extracurriculars and clubs, each school, the website under student life, you will find a list of everything from the clubs that are offered, for example, this year. That changes a little bit year to year, depending on availability, depending on scheduling, et cetera. But you can find all of that, as well as the intramural sports, which are non-competitive, non-tryout, just drop-in programs as well.
Laura, a couple of music questions. You want to hit those?
Sure, I was actually typing an answer just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
move things along, but that's no problem. So the first question I think is introductory music instruction available for students who did not pursue an instrument in elementary school. So we are looking at expanding our instrumental program, especially after the COVID year that has happened. So most likely we will look at having some beginners in our classes. I think what ends up happening is our teachers do a really amazing job that if you are a beginner, that they give your child some one-on-one time within the larger group, which is why, at the middle school level, we typically encourage the private lessons because that 30-minute small group pullout in elementary was so critical. But we are looking at revamping some of our instrumental programs so that we can have some late start or later start instrumental students so that they can join the band or orchestra, a little bit later on in their middle school career. The second question is do you offer guitar lessons also for beginners? So I would say that all of our general music classes are considered beginner. So the music class that is not your instrumental performing ensemble or your choir, it focuses on fundamental skills of music. So how to read music, how to decode familiar and unfamiliar patterns. And then they take those skills and apply it to a variety of instruments, including piano, including guitar, and including ukulele. So all the classes are typically beginner. For those of you who have some experience or some of your children have experience with playing one of those instruments, what we'll do is also personalize the instruction and level some of the instruction so that the teacher who's teaching it ends up providing instruction that's a little more intermediate to advanced level for that particular student. These classes are typically on the smaller side, which really lends itself nicely for these kinds of opportunities, since we shift the instrument depending on the school or the availability of the actual instrument. So hopefully that answers your question. And it's a similar kind of thing if you're someone who wants to pursue an instrument. Even the general music classes would be very helpful in this case because having that general music foundation will be applicable to any instrument, whether it be stringed instrument or an instrument in the band.
I'm happy to take a couple of the counselor-related questions. How would my child know their classes? Typically, I'm sorry, somebody just said they were going to answer that, but they would know their classes. We will post them in Aspen. We do every school does it a little bit differently, but you will know the classes that your child is being recommended for in the spring. And if you have questions about that at the time, you'd either talk to the elementary school or the grade level counselor, myself at Eastern, and the equivalent at the other two schools. How many students does each counselor have? That again varies by school, but we do loop with the students. So as I'm currently the 8th grade counselor, I will loop back down with 6th grade and keep those students for the 3 years, which is great, in terms of consistency, getting to know the families. Then there's a question about what does 6th grade orientation consist of? This has varied the last few years because of COVID, and also varies a little bit from school to school, but in general, the goal of the 6th grade orientation is to get the kids familiar with the building, with how to navigate their schedule a little bit, understand the locker, get to know each other, and just get a little bit more comfortable in the school environment. And just to note as well, each of the schools usually has their own meetings with the 5th grade parents later in the spring. So a lot of these more nitty-gritty detailed questions will be answered more specifically at those meetings. And certainly the dates haven't been set yet as far as I know, but once they do, we will send that information out to you. That may have been. Oh, and then there was one about the parent-teacher conferences. Are there any formal opportunities for parents to interact or get feedback from their teachers in 6th grade? So the counselor is the contact person. We're the consistent one, as I said, over the 3 years. And if you have specific questions that are more in general, you would contact the counselor, and potentially set up a team meeting with the teachers. That's an option. Or you can also, if it's more directed toward like a math topic or something, you could contact the teacher directly. We also do have that Aspen Live Gradebook, which there'll be a whole orientation for parents on how to use, that gives you feedback in terms of how the students are doing. As well, one of the big goals in terms of middle school is to help the children advocate back and forth with their teachers as well. So helping that communication between the teacher, the parent, and the child is another goal through middle school. I've talked for a while and I think I hit them all, so I'm going to turn it over to someone else.
I can take the question. I can take the question about French or Spanish. So at the middle school level, only one language will fit into a child's schedule. So a child will take French or they'll take Spanish. There'll be an opportunity to double up on language at the high school level, provided that fits into your child's schedule in high school.
I'll talk a little bit about the application process to Western. So if you are not aware, Western is a magnet school, the only middle school magnet program in Greenwich. We offer a magnet program that's based upon AVID, which is a program designed to teach your kids executive functioning skills so they can be successful in school, career, and beyond. The process is there's an online application that has to be filled out by February 1st, I believe. I'm doing kind of a road tour at the elementary schools later this month. So your PTAs will be pushing out information of when I'll be available. Not just me, thank God, but me and my team will be there to kind of present about Western and what we have to offer. And then application goes in February, and then we kind of raw draw by March or April. I haven't had to turn down, and this is the first year I had to turn down students because my sixth grade was especially large this year. But for the most part, we take all comers. So welcome to Western if you want to join us.
And then just to reiterate, I did answer one question, typing an answer, but these sessions, both this morning session and this evening session, will be posted on our district website. And I went ahead and added the link for that, but we'll also post that elsewhere on our district s'mores.
I can jump in and hit a couple of, there was a question about middle school sports. What are available? The competitive sports are soccer, boys and girls soccer, field hockey for girls, and volleyball, co-ed volleyball in the fall, basketball, boys and girls, A and B teams in the winter, and then baseball, softball, and co-ed track and field in the spring. And then we also offer a number of intramural sports, which are non-tryout, non-competitive, drop in as you like after school as well. And then there are two questions about what time can students be dropped off. I believe all three middle schools open our doors around the same time. Our doors are open around 7:15 in the morning, between 7:15, 7:25 in the morning for students to come in. We've had to make some adjustments based on current COVID protocols. We'll see where we are next year, and we'll have that information out to you at those later spring meetings. But there are some opportunities for early morning help or breakfast or things like that for students prior to school.
Just a quick question about the what electives are available. So students will have multiple electives. It's going to depend on what other services the child may or may not need. If you have an ESL student or a student who requires special ed services or additional support, there will be fewer electives. But for the most part, your child will have 2 electives each day or 4 at a time, the way we schedule. So you can get visual arts and music at the same time, or within the same semester, within both semesters.
There was a question aside from sports, are there other clubs and activities? Yes, there are a number of different clubs and activities at each school. Typically in the fall, a list of clubs and activities, what days and times they meet, what the general vision or mission of that club is, gets communicated, and that gets published usually like first week in October or so. And each school might be a little different in terms of exactly when. And it's also found under the student lives. So if you go to each of our school websites now, the student life, you can see what clubs are running this year. And that's give you a general sense. Obviously, there are some that run every year, and there are some that fluctuate depending on interest and need. And it's not uncommon if students and enough students have an interest in a club that a new club gets formed based on student interest.
I can speak a little about the electives. There's a couple of questions here. Can students who do orchestra also do seminar? Or there's a question also, if a student does a visual arts elective, can they opt for music? So the schedules can be a little tricky, and we try to accommodate as much as we can, as much as the schedule allows us to. So with regards to orchestra, band, and chorus, our performing arts classes, those are year-long commitments. And also scheduling for other electives such as art, general music, technology, consumer science, seminar. Those electives, we try to have the students experience all of them, but they may not, because they might have an intervention class for math, for example, or some other class, a support class that might be filling their schedule. So we try to give them an experience with all the classes. And if we know a student is very artistic, for example, the student can shoot us an email, the parent can shoot us an email and say, hey, my child really loves art. We'll try to make sure or try to accommodate as much as we can to add art. But again, it can be a little tricky, the schedules.
I think that's our last open question. Okay. Well, thank you all for attending. As Tara pointed out, we're going to be pushing this out so you can watch it again or get any other questions answered, or you can reach out to any of the coordinators to answer any placement questions or any of the principals as well about our buildings. And we hope to see you all in our spring orientations. All three of us run an orientation in April. And then we also, COVID permitting, will have your kids come tour us in June. So have a great evening. Thank you.